My darlings, happy Thursday. It is that time in the week where I come on with my very large mug of tea. Mr. Ridley hates these mugs. He says they're far too big. He likes a piping hot cup of tea. I'm not bothered. Lukewarm, as long as there's plenty of it. Isn't this sunshine fabulous? Got my washing on the line, bleaching. Not with actual bleach, bleaching in the sun. Don't do bleach. Do the green bleach. Please, if you don't already have a copy, get Nancy Birtwhistle's Clean and Green book, which has lots of wonderful, natural, homemade kind of laundry detergents and things like that, and techniques for washing your laundry, one of which involves green bleach. Anyway, I totally digress. I have tried to record this video. I'm not exaggerating, this is my 16th attempt at recording this video. So we're just rolling with it now. If I stumble, if I stutter, if I say something I hadn't intended to say, you're gonna hear it. Because this is what we are doing, we are rolling with this video. So, last week I came on and told you, well, gave you an overview of some of the myriad of symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. They think now there's actually something like 100 different symptoms associated with the menopausal journey, let's call it, which can last over a decade for some of us. Now, some fortunate women will not experience any symptoms, probably around 20%. And a lot of these women tend to be in the East, like in Japan, they don't even have a word for menopause because they tend not to experience the symptoms. And I will at some point do a deep dive into that, exactly why. I am convinced it will be lifestyle based. Anyway, I probably painted quite a bleak picture, and that absolutely wasn't my intention. I'm not a scaremonger. I lived my entire life until a few years ago in fight or flight. I always considered kind of the worst case scenario, that I can't possibly do that because what if that happens? That is not a place I live anymore. As you know, I don't watch the news. I am not here to scaremonger you. I am just here to raise awareness and to share with you, because I think it's really important to share as women, so that we don't feel so alone, particularly in our health journey. Because I think sometimes when we're going through something from a health perspective, be it physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, I think we can get very caught up in thinking that we're the only one who's experiencing it. So it's really important to share. Another reason I think it's important to share, particularly on the subject of menopause, is that until quite recently, and probably still now, it's seen as somewhat of a taboo subject, which is crazy to me. And I was reading the other day kind of about the history of menopause and how we used to kind of deal with it in the past. I've always been very connected to ancient Egypt. I love studying them in school. We're going to take a trip to Egypt. I'm super excited to see the pyramids. I've never been. We're going to take a trip next month, and I don't know if you've seen, there's lots of kind of news that's come out about these huge pillars that are under one of the pyramids, with these kind of energy spirals. Yeah, I am super excited to go and see those. Anyway, in this article that I was reading, it was saying that in ancient Egypt, there was not a lot written about menopause because most of the writings of that time were done by men who were obviously not concerned with the menopause. And then it kind of gave you kind of a breakdown of how it was dealt with in ancient Greece, etc. And in the Victorian era, this really concerned me. In the Victorian era, they considered that the menopause often was hysteria. They kind of diagnosed it as hysteria, and that the only kind of treatment for that was being locked up in an asylum. And that is just so utterly abhorrent to me. Every single woman goes through menopause, be that sadly surgical, early menopause, due to some surgical procedure. Yeah, that was just utterly abhorrent. Also, some cultures women didn't live until midlife. You know, their life expectancy was very low at certain periods in our history. So we probably don't have a lot of knowledge on what happened way back when, because women didn't get to the age where they were actually going through perimenopause and menopause. Yeah, super, super interesting. So that's another reason. I feel like as women, we have really been targeted in the past. Also kind of, you know, going way back to witch trials. I am convinced that witches that were kind of burnt at the stake were these incredibly wise, healing women, and the kind of typical depiction in fairy tales is, you know, the older, wrinkly, grey-haired woman living kind of on the outskirts of society, generally in a forest. And to me, these were, you know, women that knew exactly what they were doing, who were really kind of in touch with their intuition, and who kind of were powerful healers, knew the kind of powerful healing properties of nature. And I think it scared a lot of people. I think particularly it scared the patriarchy, and I think that's why there was this awful kind of burning of these poor women way back when. And I think we kind of, we hold some of that. Our kind of ancestral lineage holds some of that pain. So that's even more reason that it's really important to speak about our menopausal symptoms, to know that we're not going crazy. We are not, you know, suffering from hysteria. We absolutely should not be locked up in mental asylums. So sharing is caring. I was also thinking a lot about, well, why do we go through menopause, and why do we have this period where fertility stops in women? Because it doesn't for men. Men can keep, without being crude, men can keep firing them out till whatever age. Yes, sure, like sperm health can degenerate, but you know, they're still able to reproduce. So why does this process happen in women and in all women? And I was listening to something that was really interesting that said there's only 3 species on this planet that go through menopause. Humans is one, orca whales, otherwise known as killer whales, don't like that term, and another type of whale, perimenopausal brain, can't remember the third type, but 2 types of whales and us. Of all the species in the animal kingdom, there's only 3. So evolutionarily, there's a reason why we have retained this period in our lives beyond fertility that is clearly important for human survival. And this chap that I was listening to, his theory is that it's due to education. You know, once we have been through the menopause and come out the other side, we've lived a good 50 plus years of life with lots of experience. We can tap deeper into our intuition, and we can then pass that knowledge, intuition, wisdom down to the next generation to help them do things better, differently. And I thought that was super interesting. And you know, I think it's only really in Western culture where we kind of put youth on a pedestal, you know, above anything else. You know, the minute somebody sees a wrinkle, you know, there's a knowing look, and I think we really have to change that. I was having a good giggle with one of my friends when we were on our girly trip, and we were both putting our makeup on in the mirror, which is obviously, you know, makeup. I am a vain person. I'm not scared to admit that. I don't always wear makeup. You know that I don't always wear makeup. You see me in all sorts of states on here, but I do like to wear makeup to kind of make the best of myself. But she was talking to me about Botox and fillers, and would I ever, you know, and I was stood there going, oh no, I would never. But then at the end of the conversation, I did say to her, but do ask me that in 5 years' time. I am not judgmental at all. If that is your thing, and that gives you a big confidence boost, that is absolutely your prerogative. At the point I am at right now, I also have a teenage daughter, and it would take a lot to convince me to surgically alter myself and to inject things into my face to alter me, kind of, not beyond recognition, because I know Botox doesn't really alter you beyond recognition, but I'm not convinced of their safety. I'm not convinced of the kind of spiritual aspects of injectors. I really don't intend for these videos to be controversial, and I don't want to annoy anybody, offend anybody, but these are just my opinions. I was reading the other day that there is a thought that it might affect certain areas of your brain, certain of these injectables, and I'm not here for that yet. But as I say, ask me in 5 years' time. But the point is, we are striving so hard to retain our youth to the detriment of to our elders, and there is so much wisdom. I felt such a connection to my grandmas. They have long since left this world, and I miss them. I miss speaking to Chris's grandparents. I love talking to people that are older than me, because they have such a different perspective on life and so many wise words. So I really think we need to change the narrative around, youth, youth being valued above wisdom and people who are older. Anyway, I was going to try and come on here and limit this video for 15 minutes. We're already up to nearly 12, so I will be brief. So I wanted to come on here and talk about some of the benefits of going through the menopause. I've written a few things down. Before menopause, obviously our energy is directed towards creating outwardly. We're creating life, if we choose to have children, through birthing our children, we're then nurturing our children. And once we go through menopause, we then have more energy to kind of direct inwards, to think about ourselves, to create inwardly. I think we become way more intuitive. Physically, obviously, we don't have to deal with the cycle every month. We don't have to deal with the fluctuating hormones, which, as we all know, can be an absolute roller coaster ride. I think women can become a lot more spiritual after menopause, and really there's this kind of inner knowing. I think your kind of gut feelings become stronger. Our brains change, and I'll do another video on exactly that. I'm reading a really good book about the changes to a woman's brain through menopause. And the changes to the brain mean that we become far better leaders in post-menopause. So we can really step into kind of positions of, not power, I don't like that word, but we can lead from the heart, which I think is really important. And also in later life, we have this greater sense of community and wanting to kind of be in community and in sisterhood with other women. I think we become a lot more charitable. I'm talking as if I'm out the other side. I'm not, but this is kind of from the research that I've done. These are some of the things to think about. And I think we stop giving fucks, I'll say the word, I don't really like that word. We stop giving a fuck about what people think about us, and that's definitely something that I started when I hit 40, I really stopped caring as much. But apparently, once you go through the menopausal journey, you really care a lot less, if at all, about external validation. So that's something I'm very much looking forward to. What else did I write down here? It's about releasing the old, embracing the new, time to shed old identities, past wounds and limiting beliefs. So we can kind of leave all of that baggage behind and really kind of think about what we want to create. Like I say, we're no longer caring for children. We're no longer raising children. If we have children, we will always be there for them, but it just becomes a very different nurturing process. Post-menopause, your children are probably not living with you. So yeah, and it's just, I think it's this time where we get a second chance at life, but life on our terms, not on everybody else's. And I think that's really, really powerful and exciting. So if you are, like me, starting on this perimenopausal journey and all you hear about are all these awful symptoms, I just want you to bear in mind that it's all going to come good. It's all worth it. Just as, you know, teenage girls go through puberty and they start their periods in order to have children, if they want to have children, you know, I am giving my teenage daughter a lot of grace as she goes through emotional things at this time. Just like we going through the menopausal journey should be given lots of grace, and it will all come good out the other side. I just wanted to share that with you, my darlings. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend when it arrives, and I'll catch up with you next week.